fifth graders, today we're going to go over how to convert from decimals to mixed fractions, how to add decimals, how to subtract decimals, and we're going to do some word problems based on adding and subtracting. So the first one, decimals to mixed fractions. It says convert from decimals to mixed fractions. So mixed fractions is when you have a whole number and a decimal. So an example of one would be 3 and halves. So we're going to go over 1 and number 3 together. So 1 says 1.2. So a mixed fraction always has a whole number left of the fraction. So the same for decimals. 1.0 will be your whole number for 1.2, and then 0.2 will be your decimal. And your decimal is where you're going to be converting to a fraction. So 1.2 basically makes up 1.0 and 0.2, in which the 1.0 will become a whole number, and your 0.2 will become a fraction. So let's convert 0.2 to a decimal. So the last lesson we went over this. So since 2 is in your tens place, this is just 2 over tens. And then we're going to simplify this to equal to 1/5. So this is our fraction, and we have our whole number, which is 1. So basically 1.2, written in mixed fraction form, is 1 and 1/5. So we're going to go over number 3 if that was confusing. So 2.8. So I'm going to divide this up again between whole number and the fraction. So 2.0 and 0.8. So the beginning part, the one before the decimal, becomes a whole number, as you can tell by 2.0. And then the ones after the decimal becomes your decimal. So 2.0 again is your whole number. Your 0.8 would be your fraction. So we're going to convert 0.8 to a fraction, and 0.8, so your 8 is in your tens place again. So this is basically just 8 over 10, and we're going to simplify this to equal 4/5. So combining with our whole number, which is 2, your mixed fraction will be 2 and 4/5 for number 3. Now the second section we're going to go over is how to add decimal numbers. So we're going to go over number 1 and number 3 together. So 0.4 plus 2.5. So just as when we're adding whole numbers, we place it vertically on top of each other like this. So that's what we're also going to do for decimals. So 0.4 plus 2.5. Now, something to note that when you're adding decimals is that your decimal has to be aligned on top of each other like this. So for example, you cannot write 0.4 plus 2.5 like this. Now this might be a given, but then your decimal points has to be aligned. So this is the proper way of noting it. So now from here, you're just going to ignore the decimal point for now and just add them like how you would add for this. Add for like how you would add for whole numbers. So 0.4 plus 2.5. So 4 plus 4 is 9, 0.2 is 2. Now where to put the decimal point at the end is simple. You will place it between the 2 and 9 because it aligns with the decimals in the beginning. So your answer for number 1 is 2.9. Now let's look at actually we're not going to do number 3, we're actually going to do number 5. So number 5 says 4.9 plus 0.07. Now I hope you realize you cannot write it as this. This is incorrect because your decimal is not aligned with each other. So the proper way of writing this is 0.67 and then your 4.9, in which the decimals align like this. So the missing number over here becomes a 0. And now we're going to add this. 7 plus 0 is 7. 6 plus 9 is 15. 4 plus 1 is 5. Now if you had originally done it this way, 0.67 plus 4.9, 9 plus 7, which is 16, 6 plus 4, 10, 11. You would have ended up with 1.16, which is incorrect. Your actual answer is 5.57. So that's why making sure you place it correctly is the first important step. Now subtracting decimal numbers. Now this is the same way as when you subtract whole numbers. You place it like this, same thing. This. And again, for adding, Just like adding, you're going to make sure your decimals are aligned like this, on top of each other. So we're going to do number 1 and number 4 together. So number 1 is 6.7 minus 2.3. I already noted how you're supposed to format it. Over here, 6.7 minus 2.3. Now we're just going to subtract it like normal, ignoring the decimal first. 7 minus 3 is 4, 6 minus 2 is 4. Now your decimal at the end goes between 4 and 4, so your decimals are aligned like that. So number 1, your answer should be 4.4. Pretty simple. Now for number 4, 8.43 minus 6.2. As usual, your placement is always important. The correct placement is in this way, in which the number after 2 becomes a 0. Again, you cannot do 8 minus 3 minus 6.2 like this. Incorrect, you end up with a different answer that is not correct. So 8.43 minus 6.20, I'm just going to subtract like normal. 3, 2, 2. Your decimal goes between the two 2's, so it's aligned in this way. So your number 4 answer is 2.23. So your subtracting and adding follows the same format. It's just a different type of operation. Now for the last one, it's word problems, where we're doing it based on adding and subtracting decimals. Now for this one, you have to know when to add and when to subtract. Now for number 1, it says, Mike and his classmate placed color blocks on a scale during a science lab. The blue block weighed 0.63 pounds and the red block weighed 0.02 pounds. Now the question part is the most important. It'll tell you if you're going to add or subtract. How much more did the blue block weigh than the red block? Now the key word is how much more. That shows that you have to subtract in order to find the difference between the two weights, and that difference will tell you how much more it weighed. So your blue block weighed 0.63, your red block weighed 0.02. So we're going to subtract this. Your 0.63 will be placed on top because it's the greater decimal. Your 0.02 will be placed on the bottom. And make sure again your decimals are aligned. If you are able to distinguish between plus or minus, but you did not place it correctly, you will get an incorrect answer. So 0.03 minus 0.02, we're just going to subtract like normal. 3 minus 2, which is 1. 6 minus 0 is 6. And 0. Now your decimal is going to be going between 0 and 6. So your decimals are aligned with each other. So when it says how much more did the blue block weigh than the red block, the blue block weighed, you don't necessarily have to write in complete sentences, but it's to show the problem more clearly. The blue block weighed 0.61 pounds more than the red block. So the key word is 0.61 pounds. And the rest of them, the question will always tell you whether you add or subtract. And that's it for today.